Right, morning. It's Paul from Paxton's Estate Agents in Trowbridge. Today I am with Ryan Hartley. Known Ryan and Lisa and the children, who were a lot smaller when I first met them 5 years ago. So I've known Ryan and Lisa for a long time now, both as ex-clients and actually I would say good friends as well along the way. And I think that it would be fair to say that we've both been a support to each other over the years. It's a really good friendship. I value them immensely. I know they're always here. If I want to pick up the phone, drop Ryan or Lisa a text, and whatever, I know that I can do that pretty well anytime and get a reply. So we've both been on a journey in the last 5 years as individuals, from when Ryan moved from a house locally, which was an older one, and they bought a brand new property here, which is this where I'm sitting now. So the children are 5 years older. So am I. So is Ryan and Lisa as well. Probably shows on my case. But I thought it'd be really interesting because Ryan is actually an interviewer in a sense. He has his own blog, his own website, he does Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, probably does other stuff that I don't know about. And I think that we've been gassing for probably about an hour about all sorts of stuff. But one of the things we were talking about was probably the most recent publicised interview that Ryan did was with Nick Bailey. Now, it's probably a name that many people will know, but it's probably a name that numbers of people won't know. But for those who don't know, maybe for those who do, Nick Bailey was I think he was a detective constable, sergeant, at Salisbury Police Station, and he was caught up in the Novichok incident in Salisbury, which you may remember was all in the papers, on the news for some period of time. Novichok was a nerve agent meant to have been related to Russian espionage and so on and so on. And sadly, Nick was contaminated with Novichok, which had a huge impact upon him, his family and those around him. Him personally, his mental state, obviously his physical condition. But Ryan interviewed Nick Bailey, and I've got to say, I listened to it and I found it incredibly moving, extremely informative as well. And I think that Nick was really, really open about what he said, about himself, about the challenges to his marriage and the implications of this incident and what it did with his family, with his workplace, and him personally, when he came to the reality that he was suffering with depression and PTSD as well, which are massive challenges. So it was a really, really interesting interview. It was very, very moving. I thought Nick spoke really well for someone who doesn't or didn't do public speaking at all. I thought it came over, really well. But then I think it came over well because it came from the heart. I think that was, the sum total of it. Yeah. So I've been chatting to Ryan about his blog. Call it a blog. Podcast, that'll do, that's the word. You can tell I'm really compassmentous on things like this, not. But anyway, we were talking about numbers. So Ryan's done, I think, 134 interviews with some really, really interesting people, of which Nick is one of them. I think I saw something recently where it said that Ryan said that he tried to get an interview with Barack Obama.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah. Which I thought was brilliant. He did get declined, did he? Did he reply?
Very nicely declined. But I got an email back from his team and
brilliant.
They said that he was a little bit busy, but thanks for inquiring.
Maybe not so much now, so maybe there's another opportunity there.
It makes me laugh. I think in that post that I shared, I said that I don't mind getting a no because I've learned to smile, because somewhere along the way, this boy from Trowbridge believed that it was even possible to begin with, That's it. Yeah, I've been very fortunate enough to interview some incredible people.
Yeah.
Very, very incredible people.
No, that's brilliant. And I think, the thing is about this, and I mean, Ryan will know more about this than I do, but I suppose through life we learn this lesson that everyone, and it doesn't matter who they are and what they do, from the lowest person to, presidents now, every person has a story to tell. And I think that some of those are going to be similar, and some of them are going to be really, really different, aren't they? And some really interesting, bit like Nick's story, is going to be very different to mine, very different to Ryan's, and maybe very different to yours as well. But what I wanted to do this morning was, this is probably a little bit random, off the hip. There's no plans here. There's sort of a plan, but it's really vague, and it probably will not take that route whatsoever. It's probably, knowing me, probably knowing Ryan, this is going to go off at a completely different tangent, which is great. Happy with that. So what I wanted to do was to get Ryan just to talk about his life, who he is, about his wife Lisa, about the children, as much as he wants to tell, but obviously there's things he wouldn't want to tell, nor would I, about myself either, so some of those things are forever hidden. But I think it'd be interesting for him to talk about his past career, what he's doing now, what his thoughts and expectations are for the future. But what I thought might be useful from a property point of view is that Ryan and Lisa came from what is now about a 21-year-old house. Guess it was around that, wasn't it?
A little bit less than that. So
okay.
Yeah, it was a Charles Church build from 2009.
Okay. So not that old then.
Yeah,
yes.
16.
Yeah. But they bought a brand new house here on the Castlemead development, which is an extension of Paxcroft Mead. It's on the Hilperton side of Trowbridge in Wiltshire. So initially about Ryan and his family, about him and his career, and then to give us a little talk about his experiences of buying a brand new house, the good and the bad, and how helpful that might be. So the floor's yours, Ryan, or the sofa's yours anyway.
Yeah, thank you, mate. And I'm 34, from born and bred Trowbridge, and you mentioned Lisa. Lisa and I met at school at Clarendon. We've been together since 15.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and I went to university locally. I was just always a curious human being. I always wanted to know why things were they were, why they were the way they were, why people did certain things. And I guess I watched one too many crime documentaries. I watched one too many Wire in the Bloods, shall we say, and I wanted to be a criminal profiler.
Right.
So I went off to Bath Spa University, just up the road. Did psychology, fell in love with this idea of why do naughty people do naughty things.
Yeah.
Lisa at the time had already joined the police locally, and got to the end of my degree, and she's like, right, I need to move out. We got to 21, had enough living at home, not having enough living at home, but wanted some freedom, wanted some space. So she's like, you need to get yourself a job. So I went to the police, and I ended up getting an entry-level job, and I would take 999 calls.
Yeah.
And I would dispatch officers on the radio, and I loved it. It was a great job.
Yeah.
There's nothing quite like it. I think I dealt with some real situations that developed the empathy within me. I've already had a great sense of empathy. I grew up single-parent family. I'm eldest child. Supported my mum quite a lot as a kid, and as a young, 12, 13-year-old. So it just helped nurture this empathic side of me, dealing with people in their most traumatic experiences. It made me grow up really fast.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I did 3 years of that, and I needed for a lifestyle change. Shift work was killing me, and I left, and I became an analyst.
Okay.
And again, using that empathy from an analytical point of view, which isn't something you'd associate with an analyst because it's data numbers. Yeah. But I really bridged the gap between using the numbers to tell stories. Yes. To influence senior leaders, to assure them, to make them feel more sighted, or whatever that might be. So I was really good at it. I got promoted pretty quickly, a couple of times within a couple of years. and then starts the leadership development journey
Yeah.
at the police. So I ended up finding myself on a number of leadership programs at the police. Watched this TED talk by Simon Sinek, who talks about start with why, and that just expanded my heart and my mind for this concept of leadership. And at the same time, I became a parent. So we Lisa and I had Corey, and I started to dovetail the two. You know, policing was telling me that leadership was about rank, hierarchy, position,
Yeah.
the closest parking space to the building. You know, these things. Whereas at home, I'm learning what it means to nurture and to love and support and to develop.
Yeah.
And I see the same in my team at work. I'm trying to bring the best out of them,
Yeah.
to make them feel like they're able to contribute, do
Yeah.
meaningful work,
Yeah.
to belong. And these two things, parenting and leadership, they're the same, and they're
Yeah.
not what I'm being taught.
Yeah.
They're not what I'm being taught around position and status and hierarchy. It's about loving and serving and sacrificing. And so there I started my love affair with leadership.
Yeah.
Along the development journey goes, I trained to become a coach. With the police, I was just coaching people who were a problem or wanted promotion.
Yeah.
And I just knew that there was more potential from that, you know, interaction with people.
Yeah.
You'll remember that Lisa used to do Unique. She had a team,
Yes.
which is a network marketing company. She had a team of about 300 women.
Yeah, that's a lot.
She used to do incredible, and
Yeah.
it served the time and purpose. She doesn't do it anymore, but in the time she led a team of 300, and I would spend my time in the evenings in the office coaching her team,
Yeah.
not on how to sell mascara,
Yes.
but confidence, presence, how to time management,
Yeah.
you know, courage, mindset. And as I helped them get better, I got better.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But when I started sharing this on my social media platforms, the police or certain senior leaders got quite judgmental. Comments got back to me like, "Who's Ryan? What does he know about leadership?" and it made me go underground.
Yes.
So I built this little community called Always Better Than Yesterday.
Yeah.
Which were words that came to me through a coaching session that I had
Yeah.
about, you know, what do I want to create for people? Well, how do I want to help people? And this phrase kind of came up and it's never left me. But I helped all these people and I put them all in one place, and that became We Are Always Better Than Yesterday.
Yeah.
A community for like-minded people who just want to just come and be as they are and hopefully leave a little bit better.
Yes. Yeah.
And I spent too much time there because I would, when everything wasn't really going well for me in my life, whether it be at home or my work, I went there
Yeah.
for my significance.
Yeah.
I went there
Yeah.
for my love and validation.
Yeah.
And it was dangerous because it took me away from the things that I should have been prioritising.
Yeah.
But in doing so, I had to come out of that space and I created this thing called the interview sessions.
Yeah.
So 3 years ago, I had the idea of just sharing good people on Facebook, and I was alongside them.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm getting out, you know, I'm not hiding away, but I'm doing it alongside someone. So don't judge me, you know, I'm just bringing value.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
but I'm still doing it now, 3 years later, 134 people later.
Yes.
It's been one of the most life-giving things, and I, do I class myself as an interviewer? No. I'm a curious human being
Yeah.
who's using what I have, and I just have that gift of being able to find the good in the good around me.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you sorry, just
No, you're good.
ask a question.
Yeah, good.
And I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this question, just individually, but since you've been doing, I'll say interviews, but you're not.
Yeah,
You say
yeah.
you're not. Your podcasts, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
with people, whatever you want to say is. What would you say is probably the most one significant thing that stood out above everything else that you've learned in those 3 years? Is there something?
Well, I think the human experience is universal, so we all experience emotions. We have different things that prompt those experiences, but the human experience of love, pain, anguish,
Yeah.
fear,
Yeah.
sadness,
Yeah.
they're universal.
Yeah.
And when you speak to enough people, we understand that no one's had an easy life. No one's had it plain sailing.
No.
And I
No.
think the difference between those that go on to do good things and those that don't are those that are able to use those negative experiences in some way, in a positive way. So Nick Bailey, for example, he couldn't control what happened to him.
Yeah.
He unfortunately has lost his job as a police officer.
Yeah.
So he could sit and feel sorry for himself and woe is me.
Yeah.
Or, as he's choosing to do, is to flip the narrative and say, I want to try and use my story to help in some way.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and I get that through all of my, the majority of my interviews is, I interviewed a guy called Austin Hatch. He survived 2 fatal plane crashes.
Oh yes, that's right.
The odds were like 14 quadrillion to 1. 8 years old, going to the lake house, I think they lose his mother.
Yeah.
8 years later, 16 years old, he's just about to go off to university, so he must be at 18. Plane goes down again on the way back from the lake house. It takes his father and his stepmother.
Yeah.
And here's a guy that's still showing up after losing everything twice.
Yeah.
And he's using his story to help
I remember that.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So when I hear examples of these stories, we can either say, oh, that's easy for them.
Yes.
They're special.
Yeah.
Or we realise it's something deeper than that, which is about how do we try and use our experiences and find the good in the bad.
I think there's that saying, isn't there? Fear and flight, isn't there? Which is that case, and I think that you can either bury yourself and die, or you can live.
Yeah, and I've been on a bit of a faith journey in my last couple of years, and there's one bit of scripture that really stands out for me, which is when Paul goes to God and he says, please remove this thorn from my side. Please, with God,
know it well.
remove this thorn from my side.
Yeah, the thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me. Yeah.
So what God's reply is, in your weakness you are made strong.
Yeah.
You are made perfect. And I think, and I look at my own journey, and I think, in my weakness, I felt abandoned in my life. I felt that there's few people in my life that love and care, that stick around for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know, so I'm like, I just don't want to be needy. Don't make me vulnerable to the love of other people.
Yeah.
But in my weakness, I'm made strong. Why? Because that has shaped the dad I've become.
Yeah.
That's shaped the loving leader I've become. Yes, I'm going to have these thorns in my side.
Yeah.
But I can't love the person I am at my best if I want those thorns to be removed.
Yeah,
it's such a difficult thing.
It is. I mean, it's both Ryan and I are professing Christians, and for those who don't know the Bible, I laugh because that particular verse or verses that Ryan just quoted is probably something that I have prayed myself thousands of times. I have to be honest. Because, this wasn't meant to be a biblical discussion, but I told you it was going to go really random and it'll go off at some completely different tangent. Yeah. But the point is, I think, as Ryan said earlier, I think we've all got baggage, and some of that baggage is really ugly, it's really unpleasant, and it's really heavy. But I think the one thing I've learned is that we've all got it. And, I'm going to be slightly open here and transparent. I mean, Ryan knows my story. And I think in the last 2.5 years, I've become personally, and this is a really personal statement, more open about a certain situation than I have in a whole lifetime. And I think with Ryan and Lisa, with other really close friends where I've opened up. But I think the one thing I've learned from that is that it's all about trust. The one thing I've learned is about trust. And I think you have to be quite discerning at times who you share really personal things with. And I think there's people that, and it's a bit like we're talking, a bit like gut reaction. You have this feel about who you can and who you can't. And the one thing I've learned in this 2.5 years, when I've opened up and shared with people about my own personal circumstances, because I've trusted that information to them, which is really personal. If they wanted to, they could use it against me, whatever. And it's nothing criminal or horrific, anything like that. But in doing that, I found that they have equally opened up to
Yes.
me about personal circumstance, things really, really personal,
Yeah.
that they have barely shared with anyone but a very small number of people. So what I've learned, you know, a bit like Ryan's been saying, is that in a way, we've all got history of a sort. And I think it's just the human concept. You know, we've got good and we've got bad. And, you know, when you talk about the verse that Ryan was talking about, you know, the thorn in the flesh, you know, God to remove, you know, wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from this body of death? You know, that sort of thing. And the thorn in the flesh, I think everyone has a thorn in the flesh. May not be the same one, but actually we've all got it. And God has the ability to remove it, but he doesn't always choose to remove it. And that's why he says the following verses. Actually, we use different versions, so that's why it's going to sound different. I'm a bit old and old school, so I'm authorised version. But it says, God says, my grace is sufficient. And Paul says, my strength is made perfect in weakness.
Yes.
And my father-in-law, sorry Brian, I'm sort of taking over here, so forgive me for doing this. But my father-in-law said, quoted a statement to me many, many years ago. He said, it's lovely to be on the tops of the mountains and see all the beauty around it, but it's in the valleys that you grow. It's in the deep, dark places. And I think that's the reality. If we lived a life of pleasure and wealth and every day was brilliant and the sun always shone, I don't think that we would grow as human beings, as people. And I think one of the things Ryan and I were talking about earlier before the camera went on was the word empathy. And I think that being able to show empathy to people is a massive thing, and it's not something, it's not an unrealistic one, it's not a dishonest one, it's an honest empathy, because it's what you really feel, isn't it? You know, you feel the pain that people feel, because people feel pain, don't they?
One of my mentors, Bob Burke, he says that great leaders will show empathy and tact, and empathy is to feel people where they are, feel with people, and tact is the ability to communicate to that place.
Yeah, I agree.
You asked earlier about what is the sort of thing that I do now, and you know, I left the police, you know, in 2020, 6 weeks before the pandemic, and everything I try and do is to try and develop these heart-centered leaders. And what do I mean by that is, Bob Goff says that people grow where they are loved. So for you to share stories, you know, you've talked about trust, but trust, the courage to speak, the courage to take action is made more possible by a leader who will create this unconditional. The more that we can create an environment of unconditional, whether it be love, acceptance, belonging, you're gonna draw out more from people. And people grow where they are loved. I think that's, you know, that's the type of teams I want to create, where actually, because at some point, you and I'm gonna have to be honest with you, and if you're not pulling your weight, if there are things, but what gives me the courage to have that conversation is that it's unconditional. There's no chance of me excluding you. You're not unwelcome here. But I don't think enough is done to create that unconditional.
Oh no, I agree with you completely. I think, you know, when you talk about family, you know, about your children, we were having conversations earlier, as I say, and we were talking about children. You were talking about Corey and Brooke advertising, the manipulation of that, and all of that. And I think that's all part of teaching and helping those around you to grow, whether they're your children, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your colleagues. But I think very much the workplace, because I think that, you know, this is going to sound really biased and maybe a little bit arrogant, but I really don't mean it to be, but it is fact. You know, I think we've all worked in places where we've hated it. In truth, you know, we think even the night before we go to work, I just don't want to be there. You know, you're wishing your life away. You're just waiting for Friday to come, you know, every day, watching the clock tick. And that is a miserable existence. And I think that, you know, bit when you talk about being a boss, I think that we've all had those bosses who actually are hideous, aren't they? They're really not nice people to work for. They're really unpleasant. They make your life a misery. They don't help you to grow, and they definitely don't get the best out of you. But where I've got my own business, and I say this is going to be really biased, but it's not. It's because it's fact.
Intentional.
It is. I have my team of people that work with me. Some of them are actually my best friends. They're not just my colleagues. I don't actually call them my employees. I never have actually, and I don't like saying I'm the boss of this company. I just say that my colleagues that I work with, because actually we're a team of people. We bond, we unite, we love each other. It's the fact. We cry together, we laugh together, we support one another. And I think it's like a family relationship. It's like husband, it's wife, it's like children. It's this unconditional love. And I think the workplace is exactly that. And I think, as Ryan just said, it's an unconditional love where you love each other because you care about each other. You show empathy with one another. But there are times when you also need to show leadership, but you show leadership in love.
Yeah, and too often we think love is a feeling, whereas when we think of love as a verb, love is my ability to put myself to one side, to serve you, to give you what you need. And it's simply that. And I think that's why I have to try and help as many heart-centered leaders come to the world. So the context of the marketing conversation is the world, when we realise it, is set up to lead to our lack.
Yes.
We don't have the rank, the position, the status, the money, the beings, the whatever that might be. There's always something that the marketing world says, hey, come get. And if you go to that place as a leader, you're looking for self. What can I do to advance self? A true leader, or before that, so when that leader needs to sacrifice because things have got tough, because they didn't sign up for that model of leadership, they're off. They're throwing the team under the bus to save themselves. If I can try and create a leader who has already given to themselves, whether it be in the morning or the day, whatever, that can come to these stressful situations and lay themselves down, their needs, their wants, because they want to support, protect, nurture, develop, whatever that might be.
But I think that's true, because I think the thing is, no man is an island, particularly not in the workplace. You work as a team of people. It's a bit like biblically, the Bible talks about the body, and the arms, the legs, the toes, the brain, the heart, so on, as a complex. And actually the workplace, the same as the home actually, the same as the husband, the wife and the children, are one body. The workplace is exactly the same, isn't it? And I remember I used to work for Skanska UK Building, which was Skanska, the second biggest construction company in the world. And bit like Ryan, my role was a leadership role. The last job I did was on the Home Office. And one talk given to all the site managers there was a biblical foundation based upon the body, with the MD being the heart, the divisional directors being the brain, and, different people being different parts. But every part of that body is essential for the whole thing to work in unison together. You're either one part isolated and alone, which just doesn't work, or you work as a body. And I think that's, and I say this is incredibly biased, as a team of people, I think we do well, because it's very cohesive in love. And I think that the better relationships you have as individuals and as a team makes you work better as people. And as a boss, as a business owner, for me, showing my employees love, treating them as my friends because they are, actually I get so much more from them. It's, we have a devotion one for another because we care.
It's as simple as that. So you have a boss that deals with performance and numbers and metrics. There's a standard with which you are probably being beaten with or held to account, or if you do this then that. It's just a fear, control, reward type environment. Love is harder because it meets you where you are. it's such a paradox because it meets you where you are, and yet it's just unconditional, but it absolutely demands the best of you.
Yes.
Love sees you for your full potential and settles for nothing less. So love meets you where you are. I see you, I hear you, I value this gift in you, I need you to contribute that.
Yeah.
And in doing so, leaves you better.
It does. Because I think we all have individual qualities, and I think we all have something to give, whatever that is, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's sitting in this room, whether it's as a father, a mother, children, everyone has something to give. Yeah. And I think that, in the workplace, it's finding that person, what their gift is, what they're good at, and it's encouraging them to use that and to support them to get the best out of them. And again, I think it all comes back to love, really, doesn't it? If you don't care about the person, you don't actually really care about yourself. Do you know, I was thinking while you were talking a minute ago, we have 3 children, they're all grown up now. We homeschooled them. Well, I say homeschool, I didn't. My wife homeschooled them. I just supported, I was like sort of on the perimeter somewhere. Yeah. But I always remember something that she always said is, always put others before yourself. And try not to think about me, myself, and I. And I think that if we think about me, myself, and I as this one thing, and we don't think about anything else, then actually we don't become a very pleasant or useful person.
For context, so people will get that, but there are some people who lose themselves in serving others. Yeah. And I think. So I was never the person that was going to go onto an aeroplane and put my mask on before my kids. You get when he says that? I was like, I'm never going to do that. That makes no sense. Yeah. But it's not until you burn out that you realise that actually it's such a paradox. And it's the leader has to absolutely, or the parent, the leader, whoever, has to focus on self, but for the purposes of being a better self.
Oh, absolutely.
For those.
Yeah.
So homeschooling, 2020, that's hard, right? and Lisa did 99% of it. Yeah. But what helps you refresh and renew every day to become a patient, loving parent, teacher, is the fact that you sometimes have to give yourself first.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that completely. Yeah. That's absolutely right. And I think that all of these. There was something we were talking about. I'm not sure if it was before the interview. I call this an interview. I hate calling it this. Sorry about the talk, discussion, whatever they call it. But I think the one thing that is, we either learn from history or we ignore history at our own expense and others around us. And I'm not talking about world history. I'm talking about we all have history. Bit like your statement about better today than yesterday. Yesterday is history. Today is today. We may not see tomorrow, but today we can learn from yesterday and apply it today, either for good or for bad. We can either ignore it at our expense and the expense of other people, or we can apply what we learned yesterday into today, can't we?
Yeah, I think it's a sign of wisdom, isn't it, to not make the mistakes others have made? And I think and that doesn't mean to say we'll never make mistakes, but the lessons are there, the clues are there, the wisdom is there. And I've come to my business thinking I've created new ideas, and I look at the Bible and I'm like, it's a 2,000-year-old truth. So I think there's something to be. I'm not a huge history fan. I think because my bias is towards the future, it's towards. But the whole nature of always better than yesterday is a practical. It's a sense of, if there's any weight of judgment, scrutiny, guilt as to say why am I not where I should be, it's a case of forget that. Yeah. Just your only competition is against who you were yesterday. Yeah. It requires us to be. You can't be better than yesterday if you put things off until tomorrow. Yeah. So, again, I can't be better than yesterday tomorrow. Yes. So now, what am I doing now that's going to move me closer to who I want to be? What's going to help me express? And the real clarity that I've got around this sense of always better than yesterday is that people think it's a burden. Oh no, I have to be better every day. I'm not good enough now. And it's not. The opposite is true. do what you love, be someone you love, spend time with someone that you love. Being better than yesterday is just the result.
Yes.
It's not the cost of entry. It's not, hey, unless you're better than yesterday, you're not good enough. I'm not going to be with you. It's a case of just come to today, give it your best, have fun, use your gift, serve others. In my learning, I'm doing more research around Joe Dispenza, and he talks about the energies and the frequencies of our body. And what he's revealing is that scientific truths of love, which is when we're in states of love, our bodies are healthier, our actions are more loving and kind, our leadership becomes more cooperative and collaborative. So there's something in truth, whether it's Eastern or Western or biblical, that just says that love is the path, love is the truth, love is the way. And why would we not want that in all areas of our life?
No, I agree with you. It does. I mean, without it, everything falls apart and unravels, doesn't it? So in terms of, we've spoken about the now, spoken about the past. We all have plans for the future, whatever they are, but they are plans in reality. Is how do you see what are your plans for the future in going forward?
So I'm just asking Lisa to stop mow the lawn.
I had this the other day on one. We'd arranged to go on the morning I got there. We were to sit in the garden, beautiful day. Someone decided to start using a pneumatic drill over there, which are like, boy, that's perfect timing.
So to answer your question, I used to be someone that really tried to fight and control my destiny. And it's such a paradox between it is what it is and it will be what I'll make it. And I've really had to learn to surrender, because I think there were some things I tried to control and make happen that was never in my gift to control, and it brought me about pain. So
and disappointment, isn't it?
And I think, and over the last 12 months, I've really tried to walk in faith and surrender. And what's happened is it's left space for the miracles. You'll see up there. There's a Matthew McConaughey book.
Yes. I saw that.
How does that?
A while back.
So Matthew McConaughey comes on my podcast. How can I make that happen? I have no idea. Would it have happened if I didn't do the actions? No. So there's some truth around make it happen. But can I control it? So that's context to my answer in terms of the next future for me is I'm excited to see what miracles come my way. And I don't say that in a light, passive way. I say that because it leaves space for something greater than I could have imagined.
No, I agree with that. I think that's good thinking.
In terms of the practical things, more of the same. I'm very fortunate to love what I do. I have a thriving community. I've got wonderful guests on my podcast. Yesterday, someone phoned me. They booked me to speak on a cruise between Miami and the Bahamas.
Brilliant. Can I come?
Yeah. So in 2022 in September.
I'll book it in my diary.
and this is the thing. So that blows my mind. Here comes this young guy from Trowbridge who just believed it was possible.
And I think what you've learned, and probably what other people have learned about you, is that you have something to give.
Always,
which is done in love. It's not personal gain. I mean, you will gain in some ways, but I don't mean it financially or any other way, but just you as a person. But I think it is, it's what you said earlier, it's about serving others. And whether you're here as a father, as a brother, as a son, as a podcaster, or whatever you are, you serve in love.
So when you said about the stories, the messiness, my messiness is that I navigated the world as someone who sought love in the world. So my biggest downfall, my biggest thorn in my side is this need for love and validation. And when I did not get that in the home, I sought that elsewhere. And when I build this wonderful community who love the things that I'm doing, well, I spent too much time there. And I went to my community for love. Ryan's amazing, he's doing great. My love language is words of affirmation. So when people are like, you're amazing, and then when there were some challenges in the home and I wasn't so amazing, where did I go? I went to the nice place rather than.
Of course you did.
So
But that's a human concept in a way, isn't it? It's something we have to battle with, isn't it?
It's one of my biggest lessons. I had to learn to lead from love, not for love.
Yeah.
And leading from love, I have to come to a position where I lack nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good. So you've obviously read the same book I have, which talks about affirmation in terms of love, particularly in marriage. So yeah, no, that's really good. So just moving on from there. So thank you for that. Is because I know we've been probably talking for absolutely ages.
Yeah. Talk houses.
We could be here till tomorrow at this rate. Better get the kettle on, I think. Get dinner on as well. Is to talk about your experience of buying a new property, and we're not going to talk about the builder. It doesn't matter who built this property that Ryan's in. I know who built it, but anyway, he knows he built it as well. But I just wanted you to talk about the experience you had. I mean, my company sold Ryan and Lisa's house twice actually in order for him to buy this. It's one of those challenging times of selling your property. But so how did it play out?
So I guess for context, we sold our house, which was a 3-bed semi-detached, back in, I think it was 2016, which was the year Brexit happened.
Yes,
or at least was announced.
Yes.
So so this was a new build. We had our name down. We were going to buy this house. We had a buyer for ours. Brexit was announced the very next day. The buyer of our house pulled out.
They did. Remember.
The market was too unpredictable, and they pulled out. I'll never forget the phone call. You were like, but you were so amazing with doing that, because you told me as it is, and then I know how hard you worked to get that back on the market. And I think within a week or two, we'd had another. We kept this from the new build buyer because we didn't want to lose our ability, because there was a huge waiting list for this house.
Yes, yeah.
New builds, obviously very popular. The experience we had was one of lack of empathy.
Yeah.
Because they had such long waiting lists that their attitude was, if you can't buy it, it will just go to the next person. Yeah. So there was no love, there was no care, there was just an expectation that if you get it, you're lucky. Yeah. Which I didn't really like. No. The thing that happened is that we were on a waiting list. We were waiting. We were coming down here every kind of couple of days. Yeah. Is it ready yet? Can we buy it yet? Can we put an offer in yet? And they were like, no, but we'll let you know. Yeah. They phoned us 9 o'clock Saturday morning, says it's ready to go. It's £10,000 more than what we'd said to you it will be. You've got 2 hours. Do you want it? I was out getting a suit fitting for a friend's wedding. Lisa phones me. Lisa phoned me and said, we can buy the house, but it's 10 grand higher. And I just go flush white, because money is not my favourite topic. No. I thought, we're going to lose it. Yeah. We're not going to be able to do this. Yeah. I think you put us in touch with a local company, 177. Yeah. They're fantastic. We got in touch with them, and on a Saturday, they worked out that it was possible for the members. Yeah. And if it wasn't for that, we potentially could have lost it.
Would have all unravelled,
after months of
pain and worry.
So that wasn't fun. Yeah. The whole idea of buying a house is not fun for me. I just love people. I love coaching people. Yeah. Admin, numbers, finances.
Don't become an estate agent. Otherwise you'll start looking like me with white hair. It's not my thing.
But you guys were fantastic, really supportive. And then we get closer to the removal time. It was just a nightmare. The release of the keys, the lack of flexibility. Yeah. So we were getting our own carpets done, and we had this agreement that the carpet company would come in the day before key release. Yeah. The reality is they didn't let him in until the day. Yeah. And when he came in, he said the state of the floors was disgusting. Yeah. He had to do additional work at cost to us. Yeah. He had to. I guess the term was screed. He had to screed the floors before it was even possible.
They have all. This is really interesting. I mean, I've got. Obviously, you probably guessed I've got something to say at the end of this when we finish. But carry on.
But so he had to do that, and so he's phoning and saying that this isn't. You can't move in. Yeah. And we've got removal company. Yeah. You can't move in. I need to do this. Yeah. Shall I do it? And I'm like. and I was like, I have to bite the bullet.
Yeah.
So it was like £800 additional to what I was already budgeted, and I just had to bite the bullet. But we picked it back up with a company who sold the house, and we said that we had to do this at cost. They initially challenged to say, well, you didn't give us the opportunity to fix it. I was like, we didn't have time.
Yeah. It was the day of completion. You shouldn't be doing it on the day of completion. It should be ready.
So to be fair to them, they did reimburse us that cost.
Yeah.
But it's the stress.
Yeah, of course it is. Absolutely.
And so, yeah, the guy who came in and did it, he was fantastic. And he was very, I didn't know the ins and outs of how these companies work.
Yeah.
I didn't know the terminology of what's acceptable, what's not.
Absolutely.
And so he was really helpful.
Yeah.
And we did it. So it wasn't a pleasurable experience of moving, but this is our forever home. This is the 4-bed detached house on a new build. Our children go to school within a stone's throw.
Yes.
We didn't want to lose this house.
Yeah.
And thanks to you and your team because we lost our buyer.
Yeah.
That was it.
It is. I mean, it's. I've been. Just like, do you mind if okay if I mean, I started in. I'm going to give my age away now. I started in the state agency 1973, 74. Many moons before Ryan was born. Maybe even before his parents were born, possibly thinking about it. But anyway, and the property market has always been the property market, and I think it's one of those things when we talk about history repeating itself. History repeats itself in the property market. In my experience, it's never changed in all the years I've been here. Obviously, as an office junior, and I've quoted this a number of times recently. One of the issues we have around this area in Wiltshire, and actually probably countrywide, is the time it takes to get local authority searches back. Here at the moment, it's 12 weeks in Wiltshire. In 1980. Probably about 1982, 83, I guess. I was manager of an estate agency in Woking and Berkshire, Black Horse Agency, part of Lloyd's Bank. And we had the same situation then in terms of the searches. I can't remember, in my back of my mind, it was a long time ago, as you can go, probably before you were born. Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for that, Bron. Was a long time, and I remember writing to, presumably it was my local MP, it was John Redwood. He was quite well known sort of MP. So I write to John Redwood, this upstart estate agent who was probably a little bit arrogant, which I was at that time. Hopefully I'm not now, probably. And complaining about the time that it was taking for local authority searches to come back, because it was jeopardising sales and causing everyone stress and heartaches, listers and so on. And it ended up somehow being on the front page of the Wokingham Times as well. So I suddenly became this figure which actually I shied away from, thinking, I don't want to be on the front page of a paper. But I got a reply back from John Redwood, which I've still got a copy of on House of Commons paper, to say that we're in the issue and we're dealing with it. Well, hang on, we're how many years on now, and the situation is identical. Nothing has changed. Well, I left Black Horse Agencies actually in a way I was headhunted to go and work for a subsidiary of Tarmac Housing. Now, Tarmac Housing were the biggest house builder in the UK. My recollection is they were building something like 12,000 houses a year. I worked as head of sales and marketing for McLean Home South East Limited. We were building, profit completing about 650 houses a year, or properties a year. Which could have been flats, houses, whatever. But my recollection, those were the days when I used to have something called NHBC Pride in the Job, which you'd have publicised all around the site. And this might sound slightly biased as well, but in those days, although we were the biggest house builder, it was very much about numbers. It was a numbers game. We had to be at the top all of the time. And money was important, but numbers, in a way, were more important. But I think that the situation you've just quoted in terms of the way that this house was delivered to you, is far from uncommon, but actually I don't think it ever happened in those days that I can ever recall. You know, I think when we handed over a house, to the best of our ability, it was complete and ready to be occupied. And that was the way it was. I think there are a few good builders, and I'm going to name one of them, so hope you enjoy this. Ashford Homes, I think, build an amazing house. I think the spec's brilliant. I think the finish is excellent as well. Obviously, they're high money. Some of the more, what should we say, commercial companies, some of the bigger ones, of which this is one of them. You know, the way that they deliver properties, the stories I hear, my office is on this development, and we've had a lot of interaction with a lot of this, is been horrendous. I've got to be honest, and it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen morally or legally. And I think, you know, your experience in terms of the way that you were dealt with as, in a way, like an asset rather than a person, or people as human beings, you know, your fears and concerns. And I think that, you know, major developers have got a lesson to learn, you know, in really the way to treat people, rather than seeing it all about money, which is all it is. To me, all I see are major developers on the whole, you know, generalisation, this is about this. There's a lady who works for me called Shelley. There's a lady called Hayley worked for me, and they both live next door to each other in houses same age as this, 5 years old. Again, both 4-bed detached, identical design, both next door to each other. And when Shelley came to work for me, it was a little while after, she said they were having major problems with the house and were going to have to move out while the builder repaired the property. She said, because I've got a lot of experience in building, construction, built my own house and built a lot of others, project managed a lot of other houses as well. So would you come and have a look? And I was like, yeah, come and have a look. And from the moment I arrived, I was, excuse the saying, gobsmacked. I was staggered. And she told me that they were forced to complete on that property, otherwise the developer was going to sue them. I wish I'd known her at the time, because I would have loved to have dealt with it, because I would have said, tell you what, see you in court. Because around the door, the main entrance door, there was all the expanding foam still sticking out. There was no architraves around it. There was a big hole next to the gas meter. And I said, what's that? And she said, we've got rats. She opened the door, I looked inside, the door frames had no architraves around them. Anyway, she said, you know, she asked me if I'd mediate with the builder that was coming in. It wasn't the main contractor that subbed out the work. This guy came, really, really nice guy. He was lovely. But there were floors that were completely out by, you know, from anything up to 50 mil. They were having to wedge under the furniture to stop it rocking. It was horrendous. What an experience. And I mean, to actually, bit like your experience, for you to pay the sort of money you're paying for a property, and everyone knows that buying brand new is generally, or buying actually your house, is the biggest investment you make. You know, when you're buying brand new, you don't expect it, and you shouldn't actually get it. It should never happen. You know, there is a duty of care by builders and a responsibility morally and in terms of integrity, giving you what you've paid for. You know, if you arrived to go and buy an Aston Martin and the 4 doors were missing off it, are you going to pay them now 150,000? It isn't going to happen. And actually, they wouldn't let it happen. But why do builders, new developers, have this thing, this vision, that actually they can deliver you anything, but you're still going to pay for it? And you try getting them back to come and do the snagging, in a lot of cases, once they've got your money. It takes years in some cases, and it's wrong. You know, I was having this debate with another ex-client who Ryan knows actually, so I'm not going to say who it is, and I'm not going to say it on here. But we met outside Co-op, just down the road here, and, you know, get on really well. Really nice guys, involved in the building industry as well. He does timber and joinery and stuff. Ryan's brain's ticking away who this is. But he's bought brand new, not on this development, on another one. 2 years on, they're at their absolute wit's end because snagging, major stuff, leaks through ceilings, still not resolved. Come on, guys, this is not right. It's time that new developers stood up and actually took account of what they're doing. You know, because I don't get it. I don't get it. I really don't get it at all. And it's wrong. Anyway, I've had my anger moment. I take it seriously.
But the world's rights,
Well, I'd probably not resolve anything, but the point is, it should never happen. So, I think that your experience, to be honest with you, sadly, is not a unique, unusual one. I think it's a really commonplace, often one. It really is. So, in terms of that, in terms of new build, what advice would you give to anyone who's looking to buy a new build property? What have you learned? What would you never do again, or try not to do again?
Oh, I'm not sure, because I have the benefit of now, which is knowing that it was worth it.
Yep.
So everything that we went through, would I do it again? Yes, because ultimately I've now got a family home.
Yes,
we're happy where we live. We enjoy our community, and our kids get to walk to school.
Yep.
I was young, I wasn't even 30.
Yeah.
By the time we bought this house. So
did well.
Yeah, so I didn't know enough. I guess the thing I would do differently is speak to more people who were in the know.
Yeah.
Because naively, when you go into these situations, I'm crap at negotiation. So if I'm going to a car boot sale and someone's like negotiating, I'll end up paying twice what they're asking. My dad, they'll say £1, they'll say 20p.
Yeah.
And my soul will cry because it's that awkward for me.
Yes.
So for me, if I was to do it again and I had a better understanding of the industry, I'd speak to someone who would give me good advice that would help me understand what's acceptable and what's not and how to...
Well, I'm sorry I didn't give that to you. I wish I could have done that for you.
But you did in many respects, and this is obviously 5 years later, so the intricacies of our conversations are not in the forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
But 100%, absolutely, you were a great support. It's and I guess the great support you did provide is helping us understand what to say, what not to say, to give them, not to spook them into saying we don't have a buyer.
Yeah.
Not dishonestly, but to have you in my corner was otherwise we'd just bust.
Yeah. And I think that's this is a bit like teamwork again, really, because we are a team. When as an estate agent. Yeah. And that's what I like about the industry. It's all about relationships, isn't it? Life's like about relationships anyway. But in terms of me being an estate agent, you being the seller and the buyer, it's about that relationship, and it's about trust, that you can trust me, hopefully, to give you advice that's honest. It's true and it's factual.
Yeah, I don't believe trust is something we say. I think if anyone says, "Oh, you can trust me," it's smoke and mirrors.
Yes, it is smoke and mirrors.
I think trust is a feeling that you get once you know that someone has been consistent.
Yeah.
Once what people say and what they do become the same thing, we naturally trust people. So 100% trust you because you weren't afraid to tell us this bad news. Yeah. There was no skirting around it. It's like, I'm sorry, but your buyer's pulled out. I remember being at work taking that phone call thinking,
gutty.
Yeah, crap.
Yeah.
But the reality, you flipped that conversation, was like, right, I'm going to do whatever I can to sort this out.
Yeah.
And you did.
Yeah.
And that's it. You would phone me every day. Not got anything yet, but we're still doing this, and this.
Yeah. Joe, it's interesting. I remember something Ryan said to me years ago. I think there's certain things that they stick. It's not a thought at all, but it was just something you said. And it was, when I feel this myself at times with particular people, is that you would see someone's phone number come up on your phone and you would like sink and groan thinking, no, it's bad news, and would dread that phone call. You'd rather they didn't ring you ever rather than ring you because you're thinking, he's got bad news. And I actually said to Ryan at the time, sometimes I feel like I'm the Grim Reaper, even when I'm not, even when I haven't got bad news, I'm thinking, I know I'm going to ring Ryan or whoever it is, and they're going to think, oh no, it's Paul, he's got bad news. It's the only time he rings me. Hopefully it's not the only time I ring you, but yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But it is about supporting one another in everything that we do, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been great.
So I think we've probably done our time plus and plus more. It's probably longer than your podcast, is it?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's the longest.
So normally I have a half an hour time slot because I'm just grateful to get some people on.
Yeah.
But some of the good ones, they go on 55.
Yeah, good. Well, that's great, isn't it? I mean, it's not about talking and filling the space. It's about giving something within that hour, isn't it? 55 minutes, whatever it is.
I mean, my general approach to an interview is to do two things. One is to just know what I'm curious about and have a loose structure, because as the interviewer, I'm thinking about what experience can I give the person and also the listener. Yeah. Because it's a delayed response. That listener, so whoever's listening now, is going to listen at a later point. Yeah. So how do you create a conversation that reveals things that would be of interest to people?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think for all of us, it's good to reflect on our lives and also to think about the lives of other people. And, I'm, a bit like Ryan's doing, but not in the way that Ryan does it. I am... interviewing is not the word I want to use, but interviewing.
Good conversations.
Conversation people. So I'm meeting an ex-client who lives just over here, actually, sort of pretty close to Ryan and Lisa. Next Wednesday, we're having a curry down in Hilton, and I'll publicise it. The Lion and Fiddle. It's a Gurkha. It's great.
It's very good, yeah.
So we're going there, and actually we're going to do this in the Lion and Fiddle. But the concept to David's situation is very different. I've known David and his wife Trish and family for about 6 years. I was talking to Ryan about it before we started this. David's wife has Alzheimer's, but well progressed. So I saw her yesterday with him. She smiles, she's absolutely lovely, still the same person. But sadly, inwardly, not the same person in many respects. But my interview next Wednesday will be probably a bit like the one with Nick Bailey in a way. It's going to be somber at times. I think educational, very moving. I'm sure very inspiring as well, but hopefully really informative as well, because the Alzheimer's dementia thing is a really big issue that's growing and growing and growing as we live longer as human beings, and it's a scary thought, I think, facing that, either facing it yourself as an individual or knowing that someone that you love, mother and father, wife, brother, sister, whatever it is, whatever that relationship is, it's frightening to think that you will see that change in someone to the point like David and Trish, is that she doesn't know who he is anymore, and that is devastating. It's how do you put that into words? So I'm not, but Dave has agreed to talk about it next week, so it'll be pretty moving. And the weeks coming after that, I'm meeting Santa Ryan with Mark from First Removals, talking about the whole removal industry from his experience. I'm actually going to go on a job with him. I'm not moving anything, tell you that now. Well, I might, cup and a plate or so. Well, actually, the cup with my coffee in it, that's what I'll move. And then I'm also meeting a guy that Ryan knows as well, called Robbie Moody, who's a local builder. Robbie's brilliant bloke. Standard of build is superb, and a really, really honest, genuine guy. I wouldn't recommend anyone else but Robbie in terms of building. So I'm going to do a bit like Ryan, series of people I've got on the radar at the moment who I want to talk to, actually, and a bit like Ryan does, to gain information that may be a help for other people, and also for me, and maybe for them as well, because talking about Alzheimer's and that from a personal point of view is a really big deal. It's really personal, it's very emotional, So, you know, maybe that will be good for him as well as for everyone else. So that's the upcoming plan. So who's your next interview with?
So I've been well into the science of the heart recently, and there's the world's leading institute for the heart. It's called the Heart Math Institute.
Okay.
So I've got an interview coming up with Dr. Deborah Rosman on Wednesday next week.
Yep.
And she's the CEO of Heart Math Incorporated. So.
Okay. And when will that be available to hear?
So that's next Wednesday, which is the 8th?
What time?
6 o'clock in the morning. It goes out on the podcast.
Right.
And then Thursday. So it's already out. It's already pre-recorded.
Yep.
It's going to be live to go.
Okay, so it's going to be out live.
Okay,
brilliant.
And then, so they're published at 6 o'clock in the morning on the Wednesdays.
Yep.
And then the YouTube version, if you're more of a visual person, go out on Thursdays.
Okay, interesting. Great. Well, I wish you well with that.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing that.
Thank you.
Be really good. So, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, mate.
Amazingly, as
Appreciate
ever,
you.
good friend.
Thank you, mate.
Both of you are, and really thankful for your friendship and thankful for your time here today as well. Let me come to your home. So, have a great day.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks very much. Nice to see you all. Bye.